All right, ladies. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at the Panama questions today. So last class, we would have looked at Panama and question 1. Somebody read question 1 for me, please. Question 1.
Explain why the United States found it necessary to build the Panama Canal. 5 marks.
All right. How would you go about answering that question? Why the US found it necessary to build the Panama Canal? Go ahead for me, Nelson.
Sir, I have that the US realized they needed speedy connection between their colonies and trading interests in the Pacific and Atlantic after the war with Spain. The best solution to this problem would be to build a canal to link the two oceans. This would therefore have allowed for a shortened journey from the East Coast to the West Coast. Instead of making the long voyage around the southern tip of South America, ships could make the trip in less than half of the time. Additionally, the US found it necessary to build the Panama Canal because they viewed it as a strategic location for shuttling its warships between the East and West Coast, especially with her newly acquired territory of Hawaii. Lastly, the US found it necessary to build the Panama Canal because they wanted to grow their influence in the Caribbean.
All right, good point, good point. Next, anyone else for question A? Thorpe, what do you have for your answer?
Sir, I have the trading relations one.
Yes, read it, read it.
Oh, wait. Let me find my paper.
Sir, I can try and read mine in the meantime.
Yes, go ahead for me.
So, sir, I said the United States found it necessary to build the Panama Canal because it allowed them to transport goods from the East Coast to the West Coast over a shorter shipping route. In addition to this, they also had trading relations with South America and also wanted to expand political control over the Pacific.
Very good, very good. Yes, good answer. Anyone else? So, very correct. In terms of both students, the answers are correct for this one. So we know for sure that the US, remember that, as I said before, Spanish had interest, the British had interest, then the US, they had their interest, and one of the main ways is that they wanted to a shorter route from the east or from the east coast to the west coast. As Nelson also mentioned, that they wanted to connect the Pacific with the Atlantic because they would have acquired new territories in the Pacific Ocean. And remember, the United States doesn't like to use the word colony. All right, Nelson? So they always use the word territory. We know it's colony, so you could just remove the word colony and put territories. Or if you're going to put colonies, you're going, or colony, you put it in quotation. All right?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead for me. Somebody read it for me, please. Irons, your mic is open.
Sorry, what?
Question 17B.
Oh, describe the obstacles which the United States faced in building the Panama Canal. 5 marks.
5 marks. What are the different obstacles that they face?
Okay, sir. So some of the obstacles faced by the United States in the building of the Canal was through the fact that Colombia still owned Panama. So if the US wanted to build a canal in Panama, they would have to get permission from Colombia, which would which would eliminate their problem. So Colombia was willing to lease a portion of Panama to the US so that they could build the canal. However, the US felt that the price was too high.
All right,
And
so wait there, wait. Love how you're answering the question. So the first one, the first obstacle was that Panama
was still controlled by Colombia.
was still controlled by Colombia. Good. And then the next point you're introducing is the high cost. Go ahead for me, develop the point.
So, so as once they got permission from Colombia to build the canal, the price that they were willing to lease the portion of land in Panama to build the canal, the US felt that the price was like ridiculous and they felt that it was too high. And then it turns out that France actually had the rights to construct this canal. So the price was too high for them. US felt that the price that they were getting the canal for was too expensive. In addition to the fact that a whole other country had the rights to build this canal. So to eliminate, as about to answer C.
Good. Excellent. I feel like a good teacher today. All right. 17. Go ahead for me, Nelson. Your contribution.
Yes, sir. So I had what Carol said, but I put it in one point, in one paragraph. I also spoke about engineering problems in the construction of the canal and the fact that there were many like diseases that were going around, which contributed to high mortality rate.
All right. Good. Yes.
Sir,
Go ahead,
I saw something in the list. You forget that one obstacle that the United States faced was that the treaty that they signed with the with Britain, sir, is like another obstacle was the treaty that was signed between the United States and the British. This treaty outlined that both territories had agreed not to occupy any part of Central America, and if the canal was to be built across Central America, it would not be used for military purposes and would be under joint control of the Americans and the British. For the construction of the Panama Canal, the US needed to be released from this treaty. Does that make sense, sir?
No.
Okay, is the list you forget it come from, sir? As I was saying, that don't make no sense.
No, that's not part of the stuff. But let us look at Austin. One part of it is that the area Panama should not be used as a military base. That was part of the treaty, but the other part is that both of them decide that they should be the ones to build the canal.
Okay, sir.
C, 17C. Somebody read it for me. Hemmings read 17C.
Explain how the United States overcame the obstacles it faced in building the Panama Canal.
All right. Thank you very much. So remember, we would have looked at all the obstacles in here. So all you have to do is how do they go about overcoming the different obstacles. All right. Go ahead for me, please. Who want to answer that question? For 10 marks. Go ahead for me, Nelson.
Okay, sir. So I spoke about the three obstacles that I spoke about in B. The challenges with the Colombian government engineering, and sanitation. So for the Colombian government, when the proposed treaty over rights to build the canal in what was then a Colombian territory was rejected, the US threw military weight behind a Panamanian independence movement. Colombia and Panama had a war over their independence. The then US President Theodore Roosevelt sent USS Nashville to protect American life, liberty, and property in Panama. They also prevented Colombian forces to an extent that they stopped a Colombian force that wanted to arrest Bruno Varilla. The US eventually negotiated a deal with the now independent country, Panama. Through this deal, the zone was increased from 10 kilometers wide to 17 kilometers wide, and instead of 90 years, it was leased to the Americans.
All right, good.
For
Anyone
engineering.
else? Anyone else? How did the US go about navigating all the obstacles? There was a lot of diplomacy taking place. What the US did? Hello.
Helped Panama to get free.
Yes, sir.
That
Yes, that is one also. So one of the obstacles was in ensuring that they receive was to secure Panama's independence. What else? How did they go about securing Panama independence? What did they instigate in Panama?
a war.
A war between who?
Colombia and Panama.
And Panama, yes, they were the instigators.
Sarah, did Giselle talk about the money that the United States paid Colombia?
No, she didn't.
Sarah, would that be one of the ways in which the US overcame the obstacles?
Yes.
Okay.
So they gave Colombia money. What else? How they get the rights from France?
Rights from France?
Yes, remember France had the rights first.
Sir, would it be like wait, them did pay them too?
They offered to buy it from them because France couldn't afford to keep it, because that's what I wanted to ask her. When Giselle talked about the sanitation measure, wasn't it the French that struggled with that?
Yeah, the French.
Yeah, but then like when they took on the job, they also experienced the same problems, but they dealt with it in a more effective way.
Okay.
Mhm.
But they bought the rights from France because France couldn't afford to keep it, and why keep something that you can't afford?
Yes, so they bought the rights from France. The thing with Giselle answers that they can interpret the question that way. I think they would give her the marks for that. Because she look at explain how, yes, but they are correct. So they signed a treaty, which they bought the rights for 40 million US. Very good. So that's how they would have overcame or navigate the obstacles. Explain how the United States, the truth is that how the question is phrased, they had obstacles in terms of the actual building of the canal in terms of geography. A lot of people died and all of these different stuff. But how the question is, and you could also mention that, but how the question is phrased, if you follow the question from A, B, and C, why they build it, what problems they had in building the canal, how they overcame. The line of question indicate that the examiner is asking us to look at what are the challenges that they had in obtaining the land to build the canal. Am I the only one who get that from the question?
No.
That's how you interpret the question also?
Sir,
Emmons?
what were the challenges that they faced
Yes,
while
in
building?
getting the land. Because remember, they didn't, remember France, sorry, the United States didn't occupy that area and they wanted the land.
Makes sense. So most of the challenges would be land-based, like how
So
much.
go ahead for me.
Sir, I was
Go
saying that
ahead.
most of the challenges would be land-based. So how long it did take them to get it, what they had to do to get it.
To
and
get
also-
the land, yes. And so some of the things that they didn't get in the land was Colombia was their major issue. I think Thorpe, you're the one who mentioned about Colombia and Giselle.
Yes, sir.
But Colombia was the main obstacle in the US getting Panama, that area, to construct the canal. So what they did was that the first thing they did was to offer the US, the Colombian government, money. Then after that, they went ahead and they not only offered them money, but they instigate a war there. And also the new government of Panama, they gave them money, offered them money, right? And they also signed a treaty with France and they gave them money. Go ahead for me, Giselle.
So I understand like what you're saying, because if you look at section B, it's only 5 marks, and then so it was really, when you really think about it, they wanted like one major heading, and then you break it down in like you explain in depth. But then I did that, but I also looked at other problems. That's why I have for section C other things.
Yes, which is also an obstacle because they had geographical issues, right? I don't think they would mark you wrong for that because it was an obstacle, so the student interpret the question. All right, so let us look at D. Somebody, could you read D for me?
Sir,
Go ahead.
I have a question. Sir, when exactly was the war that they instigated? Like what year?
1903.
Thank you.
Anyone? D. 17D.
Explain how the United States control of the Panama Canal affected the relations between the United States and the Panama up to 1962.
All right, tell me how would you go about answering that? It seems like it's just 3 or 4 people in the class. How would you go about answering that question? Beckford, Haley?
Sir, we're talking about affected negatively or affected positively.
But once you say affected, you
Just
look at it. Explain how the United States control of Panama affected the relationship between the United States and Panama up to 1962.
Sir, I found one point.
Go ahead for me. So, Austin, you can look at the question. You can look at the positive effects and the negative effects. You can, if you look at positive alone, you're fine. It's just 5 marks. If you look at the negative effects, you can look at it's also 5 marks. But if it was a 25 marks question, it's a must. You must look at both the positive and the negatives.
Oh, okay, sir.
Go ahead for me, Emmons.
So I found one negative. I said that one way in which Panama was affected by, wait, hold on. One way Panama was affected by the relationship between them and the United States was Black Panamanians faced racism by the Americans. In,
Good.
in the years following the US invasion and building of the canal in Panama, there was an observable increase in racial discrimination, overt racist practices, and social disparity from
Very
the
good. Excellent. 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 Love that. Love that answer.
Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead for me, Corey.
Sir, I talk about the influx of the goods because the Panama Canal was mainly built, first of all, for the US to transport its goods from
Yes.
North
This.
America to the Caribbean and to South America. They just made a
Mm-hmm.
short path for everything to happen. So automatically, because these ships are going through the Panamanian Canal, their goods on the ship. So at some point, they're going to start trading with the Panamanians, and hence the US goods would go up in Panama.
Very good. And not only that, today the main currency in Panama is the US dollar. Main currency is the US. Thank you very much. Another good point. Lawrence, go ahead for me.
Okay, sir, one of the points that you could have was that like the area surrounding the Panama Canal, like it didn't like the Panamanian rules and laws didn't apply for that area. So that area it was like the US laws were applied.
Very good. Yes, very good. Excellent point, Thorpe.
Sir, I don't know how much I could help point this would be for like 5 marks, but basically, their relationship because of the US building the canal, Panama was able to profit financially of the relationship because United States gave them money every single year, so they're able to generate an income from quote unquote renting the canal to the US as much as the US paid for it to be bought. Paid for
Yes,
it to be.
excellent, excellent point. You're correct. And then you in developing that point, you said the money was used to build schools, hospitals, expand their airports, provide employment for its citizens. Yeah, very good, very good. Go ahead for me. Very good answers, ladies. 2004, let us look at 2004 question. Somebody read it for me, please.
Read the passage below, then answers the questions that follow. Towards the end of the 19th century, important changes were taking place in the Caribbean. The United States was now succeeding the old and facing European empires as the strongest power in the Caribbean region. B. Describe any 4 steps taken by the United States to obtain land on the Isthmus of Panama to construct a canal.
So, and which bring me back to the question of, with Nelson, if you realize how they frame B, it is really, go back up to A, to 17, describe 4 steps. So here, 17C is the same thing as 15B. Do you realize?
Yes, sir.
All right. So the 4 steps, what are the 4 steps we would mention and develop those 4 steps? So one, the first step, what was their first step? Was to, in obtaining the land, First one. Ladies, we just did it. What was the first step?
Buying the rights from the French.
So yes, so
Well, actually,
the-
seeking permission from Colombia would be the first step, and then having to buy the thing from France.
Okay.
so,
Because it wasn't
so Colombia,
necessarily quote unquote surprise because you get through with Colombia and then you have your books France have it too. So wouldn't you have to go to Colombia then France?
yes, so trying to get the rights from Colombia. What else? So you talk all about the rights for Colombia. After they get the rights from Colombia, the next step was to what?
Sorry, was this when they started paying them? Like they said that they're going to pay how much money? For 99 years?
Yes.
So much money them they paid 250
They
two
said that they would give them 10 million at first, US, and then after that, they're going to pay them 250 US,
50,000.
thousand US every year. So so that is trying to buy the rights. So the first one is trying to buy the rights from Colombia. Then after that, no. And within discussing that point, you can say that they offered Colombia money and the amount of money that they offered Colombia. Next. What is it?
So in the time period where they offered Colombia the money, that was also 1903, right?
Yes, yes.
Then they instigated the war next because they didn't want to pay.
So the next, yes, so the next, they really didn't want to pay. So they instigate a war. And in the instigation of this war, they basically tell Panamanians that one, they need to fight for their independence from Colombia. And if they fight for their independence, that they would give them money every year. So they offered the nationalists money. So those were the Panamanian patriots, right? They offered them money. But another step was that what other steps they did in odd? So Colombia are trying to get the rights from Colombia, Panama, instigate the war with Panama. What was the third step?
Sir, would you say that they like recognize Panama's independence and then they were able to make like official agreements between Panama as it relates to the canal?
You could use that, but a major one is France. How we going to leave out France? Remember, they paid France money,
Sarah, I thought something came before that.
and that would have come before the instigation of the war. So they offered France, they paid France 40 million.
So
And
didn't
then-
they purchase their equipment
And they also purchased the equipment from France. And another step was what else, which is way before all of this, even acquiring the rights from before they go to Puerto Rico.
The treaty?
They signed a new treaty with who?
Britain,
With
yeah.
Britain. So you have to look at the Pansifort Treaty, the Hay Pansifort Treaty in 1901. So that is the very first step, the Hay Pansifort Treaty in 1901. So those were the 4 steps. Go ahead for me, 2000. Which year is the next year? Good. So 15A, somebody read the A section A for me, please.
Study the Caribbean Daily News headlines of 1903 and 1915 below and answer the questions that follow. Large convoy of U.S. Marines land in Panama, November 2, 1903. U.S. troops occupy Haiti, July 28, 1915. A. Explain briefly why the United States had an interest in a canal across Panama in 1903.
So we would have answered
Answer
that
that already.
above. B.
I think we'll answer this one again already. Explain how the United States succeeded in obtaining rights to construct a canal across Panama in 1903.
Do
We
you
just
realize
answered.
this? So do you realize this?
And people like repeat question.
Do you under so for all the time they ask about Panama, do you see it's repetitive?
Yes, I just word it differently.
They
That's all.
just word it differently. Good. That's why I tell you now as students, I say go through the past paper, practice. The only question they change up a lot is the Cuba question. And they really just rephrase it differently. Let us look at the next one.
Question number 15, Denisha. Or sorry, Kiana. It's Kiana.
2007.
Sir, same question again.
Same
Explain
question.
briefly how the United States. Them people are lazy, you know?
And 2008.
Same question again, sir. They gave us something was 2005 or 2004.
Why
No,
you comparing? Why you comparing?
no, one of the things that would confuse students, they might know the answer and they say from Atlantic to Pacific Ocean, they say, huh? But they never teach us this. That is the only thing to confuse, but all the questions are the same. So ladies, are you okay with Panama?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, so when we meet on Monday, we're going to look at Haiti and the Dominican Republic. We're doing 2 countries in one on Monday. So we're going to start early on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we're going to do the past papers on Haiti and the Dominican Republic, which means that we're going to finish Dominican Republic and Haiti before we go off. And when we return, we just have 2 more to do, the British Caribbean and Grenada, and then we finish with US.
Sir,
Go ahead for me.
we're not having class over historic history
No,
class.
no,
Okay,
no,
great.
no. History
It's
This
class.
one, I love you, sir. No, sir, I love you.
I don't know what's wrong with them teacher here before. Sure.
It's on record that I have to